nearing the very end of our 10th ReFrame conference. Thank you so much for sticking it out till the very end of the day. At least this year, nobody has the excuse of flights to catch at the airport. So before our closing plenary speaker, Becky, leads us in exercise, we have a few more fun top 10 lists to share with you. The first one comes from Andy Jones with Warm. He submitted it this afternoon. Andy says that number 10 is support from the ReFrame staff. 9 is dedication of the board. 8 is the willingness of partners to share ideas and best practices. 7 is the flexibility to provide quality virtual programming. 6 is seeing friends old and new. 5 is our wonderful sponsors. 4 is little side games. Bingo, anyone? 3 is knowing that so many partners are working toward the same goal. And 2 is great speakers, and 1 is a great way to spend a week. Thank you for that fun list, Andy. Our next list comes from Jenna at Adventure Serve Ministries. She says 10, Becca is just great and so hardworking. Thank you, Jenna. 9, some comfort in the time of a pandemic. 8, ReFrame helps us to not feel alone in the work on caring for others. 7, connecting to others who want to help others in their community. 6, great ideas from great people. We now do a Shack Week thanks to ARM. 5, great knowledge. So many of you have taught me better practices and statistics. Let's see, 4, making a bigger impact together, especially with COVID. We have worked more with other organizations in our area like ASP and CAP. 3, great resources for materials such as masks and our Lowe's Pro account. 2, I value how ReFrame has helped me to view my home repair clients differently, more than just someone whose home I repair, but also someone who can become a friend. And number 1, I'm thankful for ReFrame's many opportunities. We are better for it. Thanks for that list, Jenna. Our last list of the day comes from Melissa Miller at ASP. It's also her artistic celebration contribution. Melissa's top 10 things about ReFrame. 10 are the templates online. 9 is how we, meaning ASP, have improved as an organization because of involvement. 8 is the affinity groups. 7 is an open willingness to share best practices. 6 is the webinars. 5 is visiting other members. 4 is regional events. 3 is learning new things. 2 is meeting like-minded friends. And number 1 is the annual conference. I want to thank Jeff and Stanley Black & Decker again for being our presenting conference sponsors. Jeff is going to be introducing our closing plenary speaker. I'll turn it over to Jeff now.
Thanks, Becca. And I, again, just want to thank everybody here at the ReFrame Association for including us and allowing us to participate in some small way in your conference this year. I'm, just thrilled to be a part of it because I think so highly of what you all do in helping our communities, and just know that what you do is appreciated. So thank you again. If I can, real quick, I just want to share a couple things here, and these are more reminders than anything else. We were able to work with Melanie and Becca to put together a special program specifically, exclusively for the ReFrame Association. All of your members, so anybody that's in your organization, as well as your family and friends. If you were going to buy a tool or a tool set or anything like that anyways, take advantage of any of the specials or sales that are out there today leading into the holiday season. But for ReFrame, by filling out this attached form here, you actually get some free goods in addition. So, feel free to pass it on to your friends and family. It is exclusive to ReFrame Association members and all of their groups. So anything that we can do to kind of support you and the missions that you're doing is important to us. Next, a gentle reminder that we do have the auction going on, and there are some incredible deals out there still, either for yourself, your organization, or a Christmas present. you might want to pick up some of these tools and get them at really a fabulous price. So visit that. You can get it at the bottom of our conference here. There's actually a link for the auction. You can just click on it. Now, in kind of closing, the one thing that I want to say on behalf of Stanley Black & Decker is we try to work and support throughout the whole country. And you can visit this site at any time. It's StanleyBlackandDeckerInTheUS.com. And it's kind of cool because you can actually, it's an interactive map that you can go and click on any of your states, like Tennessee here as an example, and you can actually see facilities that we have there. So if there's something that we can do with your organization, right in your backyard, we may have a factory, a team of people, and we would love to host you at our facilities or interact with your teams to better enhance what you're trying to do in your communities. So with that, I do again want to thank everybody for allowing us to participate, and to kind of finish up here and transition on. Our hearts are full and our minds are energized. Now it's time to implement what we've learned. And that's when the trouble often sets in. We've all been there before. We leave a conference with so many amazing ideas that we try to do everything and fail to do any of it well. Or we fail to do anything because we're overwhelmed by everything that we could do. So let's master that dilemma by spending 45 minutes together in an exercise that'll help us put the right ideas into action. This isn't just a closing, it's a takeoff. I want to introduce to you our closing plenary speaker, Becky Mathis-Stump. She is the Chief Operating Officer at Ethos Leadership in West Virginia. Becky has a rich background in leadership, strategic analysis and planning, organizational development, governance, and communication. She earned a life membership in the Order of Barristers, a national honor society recognizing excellence in oral advocacy, while completing a doctorate of jurisprudence at West Virginia University College of Law. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Becky. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. So I want to set the stage for what we're going to do today and invite you into some imagery with me. You see on your screen right now a slide that says 45 minutes to launch. So as you think about launch, what are the first things that come to your mind? Not necessarily, in this conference space. You hear the term 45 minutes to launch or just the term launch. If you wouldn't mind, chat some of that into the general chat. I'm just curious what that does. All right, Andy says takeoff. Adam says rocket. Fantastic. Andy says beginning. Good. What other ideas come to mind? What pictures surface? Okay, Abby says energy. Preparation. Ron, the space shuttle. Another preparing. Lunch. I had to check my slide, Nick, and make sure that I spelled it right after you said that. Any other thoughts? Anything that bubbles for you? Okay, review and understand key goals. Fantastic. Those are great ideas. And I'm hopeful that everything that we're going to talk about today will help and combine with some of those thoughts that you've shared. Although, Jenna, I do have to admit, I'm not sure that I want us to feel frantic. If anything, what I think I want us to do is feel some sort of centered calmness, that we can accomplish what we hope to make this conference meaningful in our real lives as we move forward. And so I'm gonna ask Melanie to advance the slide and tell you where I hope we will have some imagery that makes sense. What you're looking at is Space Shuttle Discovery as it was on its launch pad in August of 2009. And then next to that is the countdown clock that NASA uses to be able to know the timing of where they are in a mission. The reason that's valuable is because I want us to think about the next minutes that we have as an opportunity to run our own countdown. I want us to think from that perspective. We have an opportunity to run our own countdown to liftoff, our own countdown to launch, our own countdown from the time that we are sitting in this ReFrame conference, which is like being on the launch pad, and then taking off with our mission to continue to serve in the communities the way that we serve. So that's the imagery I'd like for us to set with. And in order to do that, I'd like to look just a second at what the countdown clock, what that means at NASA. And so we'll advance to the next slide and talk through what the countdown clock means for them, some of the activity sets that they're going through. I won't read all of these to you. I think you can read those. Melanie's encouraged us to kind of balloon that slide out if we need to by clicking on the right-hand side of the big box there. But here's some critical things that are going on. First of all, at T-minus 43 hours is when they actually activate the clock. And if you look at the activity set in that T-minus 43 hour range, what's really happening is that they're making sure that they are on mission. They're checking backup flight systems. They're looking at flight software. They're making sure effectively that they're headed on the right course. Because if they're trying to go to the moon, but their flight software puts them toward Mars, they're going to miss what they're trying to accomplish. So they're also checking those navigational systems, just making sure that they're on target. And then you look at the T-minus 27 hours and recognize that they're removing from the space things that are unnecessary in that moment. That's that non-essential personnel concept. Sometimes in order for us to launch the way we need to, we actually have to remove things that would inhibit a healthy and successful launch. And so that's part of what they're looking at T-minus 27 hours. And they're just starting the process of loading in some of those cryogenic reactants that are going to help power liftoff. So they're kind of moving into some of that energy placement, making sure that we can get where we need to go because we're properly fueled for it. Then we move to T-minus 6 hours. We're starting to do some final inspections. The team's actually going to go in and make sure that the vehicle is what it's supposed to be, that it doesn't have any kind of damage, that it doesn't have any flaws, any errors, any things that could create an unsuccessful and, in unfortunately experiences that we've seen, tragic consequences. At T-minus 3 hours, if you take a look at that activity set, what they're really doing is getting the crew comfortable. They're having an opportunity to go to the launch pad. They go ahead and get into the shuttle. They start running some of those voice checks to make their communication with launch control and mission control feel comfortable for them. They're just trying to center themselves and that crew for what's about to occur. And then at T-minus 9 minutes, one of the most powerful things that occurs in any shuttle mission is they poll their teams for a go, no-go. It's the final check. Is this really okay? Can we really move toward our through this activity set? So that is the final point. And as it turns out, sometimes it's a good idea to say no-go. And we've experienced that in America in things like the Challenger explosion. So the space shuttle, that go, no-go moment, there was a call to go when maybe it should have been a no-go. And so that T-minus 9 minutes is powerful. And then when that occurs, when all of that countdown's over at T-minus 0, that rocket booster ignites and we have liftoff. Now, you may be asking yourself, Becky, what in the world does that have to do with leaving the ReFrame conference? I just spent this wonderful few days in this conference. What in the world does NASA have to do with that? So I just want to test your experiences in other conferences through our next slide. It's just a little grid to think through these types of questions inside that next slide. And again, I would love to see you chatting up if this has ever happened to you and perhaps other things that have happened to you. Here's how I usually see conferences play out. Today, we say things like, I am so excited to, and we have this huge activity list. I am so excited to go implement this idea. I am so excited to go implement this idea. And then Monday comes. And on Monday, we look at everything around us and we say, I don't have time to fill in the blank. All of the things we were excited about today on Monday start to fade into the background because of other urgent things that are brought to our attention. Today, our hearts are full, our minds are energized. That's almost always true after a conference. We meet such amazing people. We hear such amazing content. We share so many fantastic ideas. But then Monday comes. And on Monday, we start to feel overwhelmed again. Even in a virtual space, a conference provides some sort of respite or safe haven from some of those overwhelmed feelings. But when we're not in that space, we experience them again. Let's try this one. I can't wait to share these 10 ideas with the team, because maybe not all of your coworkers or teammates or volunteers or board members were able to attend the conference. And you're so pumped about getting to share those things. And then Monday comes, and the first thing that happens is you share, and they say, we already did that. And so then you're stuck with, what do you mean you already tried that and it didn't work, right? You were so excited, and then it just kind of gets dismissed. And we get deflated. It's so easy to get deflated when we go back and share wonderful ideas with people and they say, yeah, we already tried that about 15 years ago, but it was nice of you to go to the conference, right? Like, that's so frustrating, but it often happens to us. This was the one that I am probably most guilty of. Today, I would say something like, I really connected with, and fill in the blank. I had an opportunity in the back before we came into the main space to talk to Jeff a little bit, and Melanie and Becca, and I could say, yeah, I really like them, right? But then by Monday, I'm going, where's that business card? That person that I really thought I connected with and felt that I wanted to follow up with, now I can't even find their business card, right? No idea what to do, because now I can't remember their full name. I'm not sure that I remember perfectly the company that they work for, and I lost the business card. So those kinds of things often happen for us, right? We're here, we're ready, we're excited, but then Monday comes. And that's what we want to avoid as much as possible as we're launching out of the ReFrame conference. We want to avoid these kind of common feelings, these kind of common experiences. And if you have others that you'd like to chat into the chat box, please feel free. I recognize that this grid is not the only grid of experiences that sometimes happen to us at the end of a conference. These are ones that I have personally experienced. They're ones that I've talked to colleagues and friends about. But if you've had others, think through those. You're welcome to chat them in as well, for the reinforcement that other people have been there, right? They know, they've been there with you in those circumstances. So that's what we want to avoid. How do we go about avoiding it? And that's where I would invite us to turn our attention to the next slide. And this is actually where, we're going to camp out. And this is where I would strongly encourage people to chat ideas, because I believe the more we share, the more we learn. And so let's make sure and do that. I'd like for us to walk through a conference countdown. We're now basically T minus 26 minutes. Our stop time is 4:30, so we're T minus 26 minutes. And the first thing I would encourage us to do is check our flight systems. And what I mean by that is this. You've learned a lot in this conference. You have learned from speakers, you've learned from participants, you've learned about people in conversations. What's the mission? What's the desired outcome? Now that you've grasped all of these opportunities in this conference, what do you hope to do with it? What's the mission? What's the desired outcome? If you want to start chatting that up, would love to be able to share that and highlight that. Just think through that. What do I want to do with these relationships I've established? What do I want to do with this material I've learned? What do I want to do with these ideas? What's that desired outcome for you? And I'll let everybody have a second, maybe chat a few ideas in. We're just trying to identify what we want to do with the experience that we've had. at the ReFrame conference. It may be just going ahead and extending on some of these relationships that we've established inside these table settings. It may be that we have 4 or 5 ideas that we really feel like we need to introduce to our team. Lisa says, hey, for me, it's about integrating with our team. I want to be able to integrate with the team. I want to be able to reconnect with other organizations. Lisa, I love that. Ashley suggests, hey, it's really just continue bringing new ideas to each other and make a difference in the lives of the communities we serve. Ashley, I appreciate that. Lindsay says it's about relationships for her. She wants to continue as a group where we can share common ideas, goals, even failures, and then check in with each other to feel less alone. And Lindsay, I think that particular descriptor of feeling less alone, that's something all of us need right now, right? Amid a pandemic, we've lost some of the genuineness of relationship because we've had to do everything virtually. And so anything that we can do to stay connected is really helpful. Steve says, I want to help more families per year. For me, it's taking what I've learned, and that's the desired outcome. And Megan says, for her, it's about building relationships to continue to strengthen our organizations and better support our communities. Really, really like that. Mark, who's a first-time attendee. Mark, me too. My first time at the ReFrame conference as well. Thanks for mentioning that, and hopefully you've had a fantastic experience. Mark says it's about building relationship and sharing ideas because we're going to be stronger together. I absolutely love that, Mark, and appreciate that. So you get the idea. In order to check our flight systems, we have to know where we're trying to go. We have to understand where we're trying to head. And so then the next part of that checking flight systems is to ask ourselves this question. What are the navigation systems that will get us there? What are the navigation systems that will get us to those things? And so when we think about Megan and several other individuals, Mark, who talked about those relationship building concepts, what are the navigational systems that we can use now to help continue the building of relationship? What are those things? Or if our goal was to go ahead and extend our service reach, what are the things that we can do? What are those navigational systems that we can use that are going to move us toward larger reach, more homes, more people, more support for them? Andy says, hey, I had teammates that also attended. That is a navigational system that can help us get there. Andy, I love that. Adam says, hey, Becky, don't forget, everything comes back to mission and vision. And Adam, I agree with that completely. If we use mission and vision, our organization's mission and vision as a navigational system, it's going to help us get where we need to go. It is the ultimate flight system to be able to use that. Love that concept. Andy says, hey, I think continuing virtual discussions through the ReFrame network would be a navigation system that would help us build relationship. And Lindsay says, hey, we already have Zoom and email. Maybe we can commit to monthly or quarterly quick meetings. Lindsay, I love that. It's another touch point that helps us build relationship. And that's the concept of a navigation system. What are the things, the system tools that will help move us toward that desired outcome, even as it specifically applies to the relationships we've built here and what we've learned here? So that's the part of checking our flight systems. And now we're at approximately T minus 20 minutes. We've done our flight systems check. We've got 6 minutes into that activity. And now we need to move to the next countdown activity. And that's let's check our vehicle. So here's the reality of it. In NASA, they have used a variety of vehicles over time. The space shuttle is the imagery that I've shown. Know that there are others. We are, as leaders, the vehicles for any activity that we want to accomplish. We're the vehicles for our mission. We're the vehicles for our vision. We are the vehicles that will need to take flight in order for any of our desired outcomes to occur. So this is where I want us to take just a second and be mindful of ourselves. because our vehicles have to be properly fueled. And so I'm curious, at 4:10, or now the clock just moved to 4:11, at 4:11 on Friday, after having experienced several days of an amazing conference, how do you feel? Do you feel fueled? What words would you associate with that feeling of being fueled? Are you properly fueled? So just chat up some of those ideas. What are the words? Oh, good. Jamie is energized. That's awesome. Hey, Bruce says, yeah, I am refueled, because Becky, I was a little down on fuel when I came into this week, but this has refueled me. Good. Kim agrees with Jamie, energized. Okay, Lindsay says, I'm educated and I am excited to share. All right, I love that. Becca says she's pumped up. I like people that are pumped. That's fun. My business, David, would particularly like that, that iteration of it. Dawn says that she's encouraged. Okay, fantastic. So that's how we feel in this moment. Steve is stoked. That's a great word, Steve. That's my personal favorite of the words. That's the one I associate with as well. I get stoked about stuff. Oh, Lindsay says, hey, you know what? In reflection, I feel supported in a new field for me. So Lindsay, apparently this is a new experience for you, a new role, maybe a new job, even a new quote unquote industry. And this conference has put support around you. That's a fantastic way to feel coming out of a conference. Those are the feelings that we're hoping for, that being properly fueled. But the reality of it is, for many of us, we may have already turned our attention to Monday. Even my slide encourages to think about Monday a little bit, and that may have kind of drained us a little bit, right? Like even the acknowledgement of, yeah, right now I'm really excited, but I also have the opportunity to kind of get drained and maybe a little bit deflated in this moment. Hopefully that's not the case, but it's an important part of the analysis. If you're leaving here today not properly fueled, we know that's going to impact what you'll be able to do on Monday. And that's not a criticism, it's an awareness issue. The acknowledgement that maybe my tank's only 3/4 full, or maybe my tank's only half full, or maybe my tank's even only at 1/4 full. It doesn't mean we can't do something with this conference. It doesn't mean we can't do something with the relationships we've built. What it does acknowledge is that we may not be able to do everything that we hoped. And so Kim says, hey, are you running on empty? If we're running on empty, we have to know that in this moment. We've got to check our vehicle. And that brings us to the second question in checking our vehicle. Are there any potential breakdown points? So I invited you earlier just to think for just a second about the Challenger explosion. I brought that imagery to our mind and the tragedy that occurred in that moment. The reason that that happened was this little tiny thing called an O-ring. This little tiny component. It was important, critical, but it was really small when you think about the bigger picture in a space shuttle launch. Even the space shuttle vehicle itself, it was such a small component, and yet it created this amazing, awful impact. That gap, what's that gap? And so what I'd really like to encourage, again, this is we're checking our own vehicle. We're doing some self-reflection here. For you, with the goals that you have, and with the team that you have around you, you've got the mission and you've got the navigation systems, and you have some fuel for the journey. What could throw you off track? So you think about wanting to go in and do more for the people in your community. You think about wanting to go and push healthy relationship, grow those relationships. What could throw you off course? What are the potential breakdown points that you reach on Monday? Lindsay says the normalcy of deviance. Hey, Lindsay, explain that to me a little bit more. I like that concept. Tell me a little bit more about what that means. And others, go ahead and chat in. If you're not going to be able to do what you want to coming out of this conference, what could be the thing that throws you off course? What is, for lack of a better explanation, what is your version of the O-ring? Andy chats in and says, to-do list that's waiting for me. Okay, I appreciate that. It's the to-do list that's waiting for me. Frankly, it is the thing that could absolutely undermine me in this moment. Lindsay says, okay, this talk reminds me of a lecture from college about relying on old information and not checking for yourself. Yeah, Lindsay, I appreciate that connection, right? I really appreciate that connection because that's exactly what happened with the O-ring situation. Relying on old ways of thinking and not being realistic about failures. Lindsay acknowledges that as well and says that in chat. I appreciate that, Lindsay, because that's exactly what this breakdown point analysis is about. Because here's the theory. From a behavioral change, habit building perspective, the ability to overcome sort of natural immunity to change that's kind of hardwired in human beings. If we don't know what the potential breakdown points are, we're more likely to trip over them. That's just reality. But when we can identify ahead of time, here's where things may go wrong, then maybe we can bridge that intention action gap because we can set up safeguards, guardrails around the concepts that may throw us off course. And so I just want to honor Andy in particular, his commentary about it's the Monday to-do list. Andy, I feel you, man. I work inside of Planner through Office 365, and I've got planner boards all over the place for clients, and I started looking ahead to my to-do list on Monday. And I have some things that I haven't put on the to-do list, but there are things that matter to me. And what I know is if I go into Monday and all I do is rely on what my planner has said, I won't do these other things. So for me, some of it is the simplicity of taking my goals, my mission, my desired outcome, and my navigation systems from this conference and putting them in my planner. Because if they're in my planner, they're on the list. And sometimes I'm tempted not to put everything on the list. But that's a temptation I try to overcome because I'm like you, my to-do list gets in the way. So the way to avoid that, if that's my breakdown point, is to put the important things on my to-do list. And so these kinds of simple kinds of things come out. This is going to sound crazy to some folks, but I schedule family time. I schedule meals. It goes on my calendar, which is another part of a to-do list for me. Those activities go on there. I remind myself in Planner that I need to check in on my friends. It seems like a hard thing to have to do that because as a human, you should just be like, oh yeah, my friends, I love them. But Kim just pointed out we have work overload and we want everything. And when we do that, we have a tendency to then have other things dropped off the table. And so for Kim, it's work overload on everything that may be her breakdown point. And if that's the case, Kim, we have to think about who can we delegate to, right? Whether that's internal of the organization or maybe external to volunteers. If that's our breakout point, what's our workaround? And some form of delegation is a really good workaround. So I just encourage you to continue to think about this. If we want our mission to be successful leaving this conference, not only do we have to know what the mission is and have proper navigation systems, but our own vehicle, which is us. We have to be fueled and we have to anticipate the breakdown points and find ways to work around them. So then we need to run our own go, no-go test. This is the moment that we ask ourselves, will this really work? Is it really the right thing to move forward with? So I'm going to ask you to do a quick little exercise with me and use chat for this purpose. A lot of times when we teach conferences or workshops or something like that, we encourage people to think about an action plan with ACT capitalized. And what we ask is think about something that you'll apply from the conference or the workshop. Think about something that you will change Maybe it's an approach that you want to alter the way that you do it. And then think about something that you will teach. So I'd be real interested for you guys to chat in. What's something that you hope to apply? Maybe it's a brand new idea from this conference that you hadn't heard and you want to apply it. Or what's something you need to change about your approach based on something that you've heard? Or what's something you should teach? So this is something that you need to share. I've learned this. In fact, someone said earlier they learned a lot. Share. All right, so Tammy's already given us an idea. Clients as partners, something that we need to apply. I love that. Megan says, something I need to apply is building a program to work with subcontractors. Absolutely, Megan, what a great idea. Lisa says, I need to apply Rick Eaton's fundraising plan. Rick, I don't know if you're still in this conference, but kudos to you because that hit the mark with Lisa. Allison says, I need to apply seeking local volunteers. Awesome, love that takeaway. Let's see, we've got some other ones here. Abby says, I need to engage volunteers outside of the building, and she attributes that. Thanks, Lindsay M. All right, fantastic. And Jamie says, I need to apply signing up for the nonprofit version of Canva. Oh yeah, that's a great takeaway. Oh, and Rick is still here. Hey man, shout out to Rick Eaton, who's reminded you where you can find him if you have additional questions. I appreciate you doing that. Mark says, I need to simplify the strategic plan to reflect the uncertain times that may be ahead. Yeah, man, I hear that, Mark. One of the things that we've found to be really successful with our clients in recent months, moving to some scenario planning, has a tendency to kind of pull in that strategic plan inside of various scenarios. And so love that idea. You might look into scenario planning a little bit as you're attempting to do that because it brings some clarity. Andy says, I need to read Rocket Fuel. All right, very cool, Andy. And Lindsay says, I will apply building better relationships with contractors through better and clearer communication and goals. Fantastic, Lindsay. I love that. So continue to think through that, like that what would I apply? What would I change? Here's one I'd really like to see you chat up some ideas about. I'd really like to see you chat up some ideas about teaching. What would you teach? So you've learned some amazing things in this conference. And unfortunately, it's likely that not all of your peers or all of your volunteers or all of your board members could join you in this virtual space. And so with that being a possibility, what would you want to go teach? What would you want to teach? Correlations of racism and housing. Lisa, that's exceptionally valuable. Abby says, I want to teach volunteer safety on a construction site amid COVID or in COVID. Yeah, Abby, it's a fantastic idea. I love that. Lindsay says, I want to teach the fundraising idea I learned through all the wonderful speakers and participants. Yeah, excellent. Oh, Megan says, I want to teach self-care. Do it now. Megan, I really appreciate that. In our work with leaders, unfortunately, we find that most don't take care of themselves until they have the catastrophic moment, right? And so that's not how self-care is designed to work. Self-care is really designed to keep into the catastrophic moment. And so I love that idea of teaching that out so that people don't have to hit rock bottom before they recognize they need to take care of themselves. Love that. And Lindsay says, yes, self-care. Megan, you were absolutely dead on. That's something that I want to be able to teach. And then Kim says, for her, it's the effective application process that she would like to teach. And that makes sense, Kim. I like that idea. Like, how do we make things more impactful, easier, maybe streamline things, especially in a moment like now where paperwork that is already challenging can feel that much more overwhelming when we're amid a pandemic. I love that concept. So here's the go, no-go test. Have these things that you would want to apply. We didn't center down or focus down on change, but there may be things that you would want to change. And we've identified things that you want to teach. Here's the real question. If you map those out, will they really work? Is it really the right thing? And the real question is, will the things that we're trying to do connect back up to our flight systems and get us on our mission? Like, is it mission centric? Is it aligned with mission? That's the go, no go test. Because here's the reality of it. If in the go, no go test, NASA was trying to get to the moon and they determined for whatever reason they couldn't get to the moon, it would be a no-go. Sometimes we do activities because they sound good. Sometimes we do activities because they're the way things have always been done. Sometimes we do activities in spite of whether they will be effective. And we have to guard against that as leaders. We have to guard against the saying go when we really should have said no go. Because sometimes saying go when we should have said no go is catastrophic for ourselves, for the people that we work with, for our organizations. So NASA's no go is a reminder for all of us. It's an invitation for all of us to make sure that we're not just doing it because we said we would. We're doing it because it's going to contribute to that mission. It's going to get us where we're trying to go. And if it's not, it's okay to say no go. It's okay. Even if there's just something in our gut that tells us it needs to be no go. No go. It's okay as leaders to make those choices. In fact, it's imperative on us as leaders to make those choices. Then we're committing to the right things, the things that really move us, the things that really push us toward mission. That's what we should be committing to. So in this moment, I ask you to join me in one more thought as we advance a slide. We're at our conference countdown. We are sitting at T minus approximately 1.5 minutes before our liftoff. We're just about to look like that painting of a space shuttle that's been launched. We're almost there. In these last minutes, these last seconds, how do you feel? Chat up how you feel. We are right on the cusp of liftoff. How do you feel? It's that taking inventory one more time. How do you feel about launching out of this conference and into the work that you do, into the teams that work in, into the communities you serve? Megan says, I'm overflowing, I'm eager, and maybe a little bit apprehensive. Megan, I love that. I love the transparency and vulnerability of that. Tammy says, I'm confident. Lisa says, I'm energized. Jeremiah says, I feel great and I'm ready for a work day. Jeremiah, man, I hope that's all still true on Monday, as I do for all of you, actually. I hope that that feeling is still there. Abby says, hey, you know what? I feel challenged, but probably not in a bad way, right, Abby? In that really good way that we want to be challenged. Yeah, awesome. I'm glad it's in a good way. Lindsay says, a little anxious. I'm a little sad not to see these folks for a while. But I'm so filled with that twinge of what brings us all here to start with, and that's helping others. Fantastic, Lindsay. I really appreciate that. Folks, we're at T minus 0. Liftoff.
Well, thank you so much, Becky. That was fantastic. We have a couple more announcements and freebies and giveaways before we launch into our social hour. So give me 1 second here. So thank you so much again, Becky, for leading us through that helpful exercise. Remember that Monday is the deadline to join the association to use that 33% discount incentive. It's promo code 33 that you can use on our website when you join. And I'm really excited to announce the winners of today's survey drawing. So the winner of the $10 Amazon gift card is Kim Gore. And the 3 winners of $5 Starbucks gift cards are Tammy Ruth, Lisa Pierce, and Megan Walsh. There will be another winner next week for the post-conference workshop surveys. I'm also going to announce the winners of our bingo game. So Mike Miller, you were the first one to submit your completed bingo card. So you get a $10 Amazon gift card. And we got 2 other bingo cards. So you guys are each going to receive $5 gift cards. So way to go, Andy Jones and Jenna Brock. And just a reminder, you have 1 hour left to bid on tools at the auction. That closes at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time today. And I really want to thank all of our sponsors again, Stanley Black & Decker, Lowe's, Little Green Light, Blevins, Charity Proud, Fahi, Flux, Housing Assistance Council, Lake Point Advertising, Eaton Nonprofit Solutions, and Trinity HPSI. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I want to also thank all of our speakers, our presenters, our panelists, our moderators, and our Zoom hosts, Tom and Brett. They did a great job for us. I'm going to invite everyone to drop a thank you in the chat. Shout out to your favorite speaker or sponsor or just friend that you got to connect with today. That would be awesome. I especially want to thank our conference planning committee. I could not have done this without them and all their great ideas. And of course, the association board of directors and our foundation board of trustees, both of whom are really awesome to work with. And a special shout out to Melanie Campbell. It's just so wonderful to have a colleague to put this all together with. She's just done a phenomenal job. I also want to thank everybody who has taken the ReFrame 10 by 12 challenge, and I want to recognize some of the very first people who became monthly donors of ReFrame Foundation. We have Allison from Nazareth Farm, Drew from YouthWorks, Melissa from ASP, Megan from SSP, Jay from Carolina Rebuilding Ministry, and I also want to recognize Tom Cullens and Jim Garrett, who took the challenge today. So it's not too late. You can still sign up to be a monthly donor of ReFrame Foundation for as little as $10 a month to get an awesome ReFrame sticker. Look at that. Let's see. So we do have one more survey, of course, we want you to take. I'm going to drop a link in the chat box right now. It's not very long, but we want to hear your overall feedback about this event and also what you'd like to see happen next fall. Of course, it's a long time away, but just whether you think you'd like to gather with us in person again, or if you're more interested in gathering online. We hope that we'll be able to see you in person next November. We are tentatively scheduled to gather at Meadowview Conference Center in Kingsport, Tennessee on November 9th through the 11th of 2021. Please do stick around and Remo. I'm going to close this presentation in just a couple seconds here, but we do have a virtual social hour. We'll take about a 5-minute break and rename the tables, and you can stick around for kid trivia or general trivia. Bring your favorite beverage, invite a friend, invite your kids. It'll be a lot of fun. I don't know, Allison from Lake Point said something about a virtual tour of a fire truck, so you never know what could happen. Just want to thank you all again so much for participating in our 10th ReFrame conference, and have a wonderful week.